administrator. We look forward to hearing from each one of them and thank them again for being with us today. So without further ado, let us welcome Doug Terry.
Good morning, everyone. The City of Albion is very excited about our renaissance that we are pursuing in our downtown. There are many wonderful things that are taking place with some of our older buildings, and we're grateful for those investors that are putting money toward renovation of those structures. Another fascinating and exciting endeavor is, of course, what is occurring in Marshall, and that is the Blue Oval facility, which will affect all of our communities in a very positive way. We have to work together toward developing affordable housing for those employees, but also affordable housing for those support services that will supply those products and necessities for the Blue Oval project. We see that there is a necessity for overall cooperation of all communities in Calhoun County. I know that our city council is very supportive of that. We are working on developing another industrial park on the east portion of our community. We are working with our with Sheridan Township in a 425 agreement that will be coming up. And of course, our Economic Development Corporation is looking toward new leadership in the director position. So we believe that Albion is moving forward. We do have challenges with some of our properties from the older foundries, but we are working with the land bank. We find them to be very cooperative and working together and trying to resolve maybe some of those contaminated sites. As far as leadership, again, you can see all the gray hair. I've been in this business a long time and just received 8 applicants yesterday for the permanent city manager position. And I will be there forever as long as I'm not in a nursing home to assist those communities with, especially in Albion, with anything that they might need. I would hope that they would, all of you would utilize 42 years of experience. So that's what's going on in Albion. And again, on behalf of City Council, we look forward with working with our municipal partners moving forward.
Thank you, Doug. And up next is Ted Deering, City of Battle Creek.
All right, thank you. Pleasure to be here this morning, and pleasure to join with my counterparts from Albion, Marshall, Springfield, and the county. I think we would all agree there was never a dull moment in 2024, and we're certainly expecting more of the same in 2025. And I think that 2024 was a good year for the city of Battle Creek. We had some successes and certainly generated a little bit of momentum. We expect that to carry into 2025, and that does start with our leadership group, which is the Battle Creek City Commission that you can see here on the slide. All 9 members of the commission were actually on the ballot in November this past year. We're pleased to welcome 2 new commissioners to the Battle Creek City Commission, Jessica Lacoste in Ward 1 and Paige Katsarski-Smith, who is one of our new at-large commissioners. We've got some veterans returning to the commission in Janasia Morris, Patrick O'Donnell, Chris Simmons, and Jim Lance in their ward seats, respectively, wards 2 through 5. And then Carla Reynolds and Sherry Sophia, who is our vice mayor, returning as at-large commissioners. And then Mark Benke returns for another 2-year term as the mayor. And this, here is the administrative team at the City of Battle Creek. We're looking forward to working with this new team of commissioners in 2025. So let's go on to the next slide, if you would, please. Thank you. Appreciate that. Again, the calendar year of 2024, it might best be described as a year of renovation and rehabilitation for the City of Battle Creek. After a somewhat lengthy period of time, we were able to complete renovations at City Hall And that included a new parking lot, a pretty major overhaul of the parking lot, and a redesign of the first floor of the facility, which allowed us to recapture the south entrance of the building, which was the original architectural entrance to City Hall. And those renovations have significantly improved the safety and the security of the facility, and were funded in part by some of the ARPA funds that we received from the federal government. So we were also able to replace the historic retaining wall that goes around City Hall with grant money secured from the state. So we're very grateful for that support, and the Schweitzer group here locally did a great job of replicating that retaining wall. Those renovations will continue in 2025. We've got more work to do at City Hall. The Ballantyne Center in Irving Park, which is a building that we're renovating for a new daycare provider, will come online in 2025. We're also renovating the old Kingman Museum in Lila Arboretum in anticipation of hopefully landing a new or perhaps familiar tenant in that facility. And we'll be redesigning and replacing HVAC systems at Kellogg Arena in support of the hotel, and hopefully replacing our boiler and chiller at City Hall that's been tested by the weather we've had so far in 2025. And really the renovations and rehabilitations weren't confined just to city facilities. After that incredible replacement project of the Capitol Avenue Southwest Bridge in 2023, we completed a complete milling and repaving of Capitol Avenue Southwest with sidewalk repairs and ramp upgrades and new pavement markings, etc., manhole adjustments and the works, actually all the way from Dickman Road out to the highway. That project will finish up in 2025 with one small portion left to go, and that's the portion that's in front of what used to be Graphic Packaging Inc. That building has been demolished. If you haven't seen that, I'd come down and take a look, because it's kind of a forerunner to river restoration. We also undertook a pretty amazing transformation of Claude Evans Park in Washington Heights. New surface parking lot there, roadway modifications, stormwater management, safety and security upgrades, additional lighting, etc. We'll finish that project in 2025. We've got a top layer of asphalt to put down. And then actually in April, on Arbor Day, Kellogg and Kellogg Nova, their green team will be planting trees in the park and in the community in recognition of the city's designation as a Tree City USA. You can go to the next slide if you would. The work continues out at the Verona well field. We engaged in a large-scale project to improve the drinking water that serves not only the city of Battle Creek, but many of the surrounding jurisdictions. Last fall, we initiated one of the largest well field rehabilitation projects in Michigan history, with the intent of replacing all 22 of our production wells. This project, again, benefits not only the city, but many other local jurisdictions who are using the system. And then, of course, what can I say about the renovations of the former McCamley Plaza Hotel, which is now the Hilton Doubletree. If you were there on groundbreaking day, you can see a picture there from groundbreaking. What an incredible event that was for a $75 million project in downtown Battle Creek. As a community, I think we can have great pride in the hotel. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the collaboration between public, private, and philanthropic organizations, including the county, that brought the shared vision for the hotel to fruition. So that, this hotel is going to be a major driver of economic vitality in the downtown for years to come. I also want to mention that 2024 was an exciting year for those that rely on public transportation. In November, voters in Albion, Battle Creek, Marshall, and Springfield approved a millage to support countywide transportation under the jurisdiction of the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County, also known as Ride Calhoun. The TAC has a grand vision for what countywide transportation could look like in our community, and we're working closely with them, as well as I'm sure the other jurisdictions on this presentation will attest to help transition services, hopefully in early fall, mid-fall of this year. You can go to the next slide. I did mention briefly our well casing project at Verona. We were able to secure a pretty sizable commitment from the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund for well replacement, as well as some upgrades to water infrastructure in the community, including a lot of lead service line replacement. Those funds are going to help us significantly accelerate the process in Battle Creek of replacing lead service lines, which we're committed to getting done within the next several years. We'll be focusing on various neighborhoods in 2025, again, in a continuous effort to try to improve overall water quality for the community. We also took an important step in 2025 with regards to police community relations with the establishment of a citizen-centric community oversight board. That board creates an opportunity for some proactive approach to identifying potential problems, building partnerships between law enforcement and local community, and creating bridges between PD and our community members. They've been going through some extensive training, but we're excited to see that board launch in 2025. You can go to the next slide. And then speaking of 2025, I mean, there are some renovations and rehabilitations that are going to continue in this calendar year. However, it's also going to be a year of transition. We are going to welcome some new leadership here at City Hall. Last November, our longtime city manager, Rebecca Fleury, retired from the city, and we are also in the process of seeking her replacement. The position's been posted. We expect to identify some finalists for the positions likely in mid-March. And we're hoping to have a community meet and greet and community tours, interviews, that kind of thing in mid-April. And then select a new manager by early May, have that manager onboarded in June. That's the timeline that we're on right now. And hopefully we can welcome a new city manager to Battle Creek by mid-year. One of the first tasks that city manager is going to face is a complete overhaul of our fire facilities in 2025. We had a significant amount of stakeholder and community engagement in 2024 around our fire facility needs. We have planned to address every station with a plan that includes either some expansion, renovation, or in some cases, new construction. It's a great opportunity to modernize our stations to ensure that they are the safe and healthy workplace or environment that our firefighters deserve, and that they're accessible and positioned well for the future. I think it's been mentioned already how important housing is to the broader economic development efforts of all of our communities. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute, but we also realize that the quality of life is an important leg of the three-legged economic development stool. And we're going to continue our efforts to naturalize and channelize the channelized portion of the Kalamazoo River that runs through downtown. So, we were able to achieve some pretty important milestones in 2024 with regard to that project around feasibility and federal authorization for a project. And we expect that momentum to continue in 2025. We have secured a couple of grants that are allowing us to do some additional analysis of the channel and even a little bit of the design work up front. The reality is on this project, this is still very much a long-term project. We know there are a lot of people in the community excited about this. It's going to take a while for it to come to fruition, but we are making progress. And I mentioned GPI a little bit earlier. If you've seen that facility, the fact that it's been demolished, that it really kind of shows you that we're moving ahead with the river restoration efforts. That project is certainly going to have an impact beyond Battle Creek. And that also goes for another project we've been working on for about 18 months now. And that is a reimagining of the Beckley Road corridor area. The corridor is definitely in need of a refresh. And the intent is to establish a vibrant and sustainable work, live, play environment out there. We are looking to incorporate some residential opportunities, hopefully in close proximity to a number of day and nighttime amenities and ancillary uses. We're finalizing the plan now as we speak. That's going to include some amenities that would connect to a transportation network with vehicle and pedestrian modes of travel to make that entire area a little bit more pedestrian friendly so that it can peacefully coexist with the businesses and retail that exists out there. The other thing we want to do with that project too is enhance the natural environment. There's some real opportunities, some beautiful property out there. So a little bit of a green emphasis wouldn't hurt at all either. This year, we do expect to formally adopt that plan. We've got one more open house plan for residents to come in and review and comment on the plan. And then we'll begin some implementation. We need to update the LDDA development and TIF plans in that area. We also need to do some planning and zoning updates. We need to do a board refresh and hopefully see some initial investment as early as the end of 2025. We should have the plan up on the city's website very soon so folks can review it, and certainly we welcome your feedback. Next slide, if you would, please. Planning and effectively communicating with our citizens, receiving feedback, I mean, that's an important theme in 2025 for us. We do pride ourselves on getting information out to the public. We're looking for ways to improve our website this year, making it easier for neighbors to find what they're looking for. Our communications team is also pursuing a more flexible mass notification system to enhance and expedite the communication that we do with neighbors. There's also an opportunity and even an appetite, I think, for a refresh of our city branding. I don't know that we'll get to all of that in 2025, but we certainly are creating a roadmap so that we can get through it by 2026. Once again, we'll be conducting our national survey later this year. We do that about every 3 years. The survey is a collaboration between the National Research Center and the International City and County Management Association. It is an opportunity for our neighbors to share their perspective on city services, safety, mobility, economy, etc. Again, the survey is conducted every 3 years, and the feedback is used by administration to support goal setting and certainly long-term planning here at the City of Battle Creek. It's also time to update our master plan. The master plan provides a strategic framework, obviously, for long-term growth and development in the community, including sustainable land use and other related areas such as resource allocation, enhanced community engagement, etc. Every 5 years, we do an update on the master plan. In 2023, working with some other stakeholders, and some of the other jurisdictions may mention this, we completed a housing needs assessment for Battle Creek with some specific recommendations on how to address the critical need for housing that we have in our community. We need housing at basically every price point of every type in every corner of the community. And we're engaging citizens in a conversation about density and housing types with the intent of adding a strategic component around housing to our master plan. And, along with the master plan, we're also in the process of updating our 5-year consolidated plan. And this consolidated plan governs the spending of federal funds that we receive by the city for certain qualified individuals and geographies within the community. The consolidated planning process calls for a very robust citizen engagement component. And so, we encourage residents, make your voice heard, be part of these planning processes, give us your feedback. We welcome your thoughts and feedback as we head into 2025. And again, looking forward to more and continued success. And that is it for me. Thank you, everyone, for granting us the time this morning.
Thank you, Ted. And up next is Derek Perry with the City of Marshall.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what's been going on with the City of Marshall in the prior year and this current year. We did have an election in 2024, and we have a new mayor and several new council members, and then we had some vacancies. So we actually just had some recent reappointments by City Council. But we do have a full City Council now, and we're moving forward with a lot of great plans and exciting things to do here in the upcoming year. What I'm going to share this morning is from our action plans. Each year we put together about 60 to 70 items or goals that we hope to accomplish. And we'll share a few of the 24 accomplishments and then move into some of the 25. So next slide, please. One of our big ones for 24 was our 5-year Parks and Rec Master Plan. It helped guides what we plan on doing in our park system, but also makes us eligible for grants, which is important. Getting grants in the city of Marshall is an emphasis for us. We need this in place, and it's been submitted to the DNR. In fact, last city council meeting, we submitted a couple grants to the DNR for our river walk, which is an important amenity for us. Next. I just spoke about the Riverwalk. So back in early 90s, the city completed a huge process all the way from Stewart's Landing west towards South Kalamazoo, installing this wonderful amenity along the river edge. Unfortunately, after 30 years, there were sections of it that were in a state of significant disrepair, and we were able to leverage some of our ARPA dollars in some local matches and basically reconstruct a large portion of it. And again, we have, it's quite the extensive amenity, and we need to continue that work. We're excited to, again, submit those grants and keep moving forward. Next. Another significant project we completed in 24 was what we call the activation zone, which includes a heavily used parking lot between the Marshall District Library and Schuler's Restaurant. South Green Street, we added significant amount of new angled parking, and then on South Jefferson Street, we converted that to a one-way and added angled parking too. But one of the components of it is kind of a social area, which I believe came out of the COVID times, where we wanted to have outdoor space where we could recreate and still enjoy the community. And that's been converted to a beautiful space now that we look forward to utilizing for some of our special events going forward. Next. So the city of Marshall is one of about 40 cities in the state of Michigan that actually owns and operates its own electric utility. So there's a small group of us. In fact, there's 6 of us that actually operate our own broadband fiber net operations too. But as part of our electric utility, we actually added 10 megawatts of natural gas generation in the city. And right now, actually the last few weeks, it's been so cold that all those generators have been fired up just because of the additional load on the system. And we're happy to have these, what we call behind the meter, so that if there ever was an issue with the power grid around us and we were disconnected from that for whatever reason, we'd be able to generate power here locally and keep our residents and businesses in operations. So we're excited to have that project completed. That was about $11 million, so no small bill, but it's a great amenity, again, continuing for our electric utility. Next. As mentioned earlier, significant progress has been made on the Blue Oval project and the area around that. Blue Oval takes up about 500 acres of the 2,000 acre major campus area, but 2024 was a major year for getting the utility infrastructure in place to service that. And that included 14 miles of water transmission main, which again is in partnership with the city of Battle Creek. So we will now have a large pipe that will connect the two communities, and there's a lot of public safety benefits to having that in place, besides just the economic development benefits. There's a 4.5 million gallon water storage tank, a new pump station, and then of course a new sanitary pump station to move the wastewater from the facility major campus towards our wastewater treatment facility in the city of Marshall. But big year, again, appreciate everyone's patience and understanding. No one likes construction, but that's the only way that you improve a community. So thank you for that. And next slide. We are in the process of updating our master plan, and we're transitioning now to our 2025 goals. We spent a lot of 2024 working on this, but we're going to spend the next 3, 4, 5 months wrapping that project up here. It's critical that we complete that master plan so we can lay the groundwork on how we want to proceed over the next 5 years. And we encourage folks to, snap a picture of that QR code and take the survey. We're getting down towards the end of the project, but we definitely still want to solicit as much feedback as possible. And then once we complete the master plan, we'll be transitioning to reviewing our zoning ordinance, which is really the rules and regulations that allow you to implement everything that you want to do in the future land use plan. So next. This is a project we've been talking about for several years, which is at the southeast corner of the athletic field in Marshall. We're going to be breaking ground on the park project known as Eaton Park, because Eaton Corporation donated this land to us, but it'll include 6 pickleball courts, which I'm told is all the rage, We'll have a splash pad. Again, we got to keep up with the Joneses, right? But with that, it'd be a great amenity for our young families. And then, of course, a picnic pavilion, restroom, and a new parking lot. So we're excited about this project. Again, it's been talked about for many years, and we finally have raised the capital dollars thanks to a lot of great fundraising in the community. Thanks to folks like Oaklawn Hospital, which donated $100,000, the Marshall Rotary Club, which donated $100,000 to sponsor the splash pad. And again, we're just excited to get this project underway, constructed, so that our residents in Marshall can utilize that project. Next. Our big street project for 2025 will be Verona Road and West Drive. If you drive those, you probably know why we're doing that. Like a lot of streets, you know, there's work to be done, right? And this year we're able to move forward with that project. And one of the things we've been hearing in our master plan is walkability, walkability, walkability. People love that we are a walkable community, but want us to continue to connect some of those dots and reduce the gaps that we have in our network. And as part of this project, we're going to be adding a new sidewalk there on the south side. So again, just to the value of the master plan, these are the things that the community want to see done. So we're going to move forward with those things. So appreciate getting this project underway, and thank you to the community and for the patience when this project kicks off. Because again, you know, these things just don't happen overnight. It'll be a 10-week period if all things go well. Again, just keep focusing on the final product, right? Next. Another utility upgrade we're planning on doing in the city is replacing some water main. So we have about 59 miles of water main in the city. 35% of that is cast iron. Again, being an old city, it's an old product. Unfortunately, what it does is it creates rusty water at times, especially if the water doesn't get moved around frequently enough. Or when you do flush the hydrants, you'll notice that the brown water tends to be an issue. Well, one of the projects we're hoping to do, what we plan on doing this summer, is replacing a large section of it and actually lining a section of it too. This will be the first time we've lined water main in the city of Marshall, so it's kind of a pilot or demonstration project for it. I hope it goes well. I hope it allows us to extend the life of some of this cast iron main in the city, and then again, really help us with the water quality issues we have in some of the areas of town. Next. Going back to the master plan and the importance of having a walkable community, we've never had a non-motorized plan, which is something that MDOT tells us we should have in order to seek grants. There's some areas in town where MDOT has jurisdiction, and we want to make them safer for the pedestrians and improve the walkability and safety. So in order to do that, we got to have this plan. So this will be a component of our master plan. Again, appreciate all the feedback we've heard from the community. And as a component of that, we'll also look at some wayfinding signage throughout town. So we'll be able to help you when you enter Marshall, figure out where you can park to visit our wonderful downtown, where you can visit our amenities and get to the Riverwalk. So again, we're excited to move forward with this in 2025. Next. Marshall's a beautiful historic town, which means we have old facilities in town, and some of those are occupied by the city government. So one of the things we identified as a priority for us is develop a facility that needs assessment for all of our buildings, and identify what those are and start to put some dollars to that so we can move forward with a strong program on replacing simple things like our doors and windows here at City Hall. And then obviously some more complex things like heating and HVAC. But that's an important goal in 2025, and I'm excited about that because we know these facilities, we've been entrusted with their care, and we need to make sure that we have identified a plan and put the resources necessary to make that happen. Next. All right, I know I went through that rather quickly. Again, there's 60 or 70 of those that we identify each year, and I would encourage folks, if you want to see what we accomplished in 2024, go to our website. We have the complete report. We do an update at 6 months and then at the end of the year, and then we basically put together our new plan at the end of the year, and that's out there too, identifying all those goals. So thank you very much, and if anyone has questions, we look forward to answering those later on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek. Next is Ethan Moody with the City of Springfield.
Hello, good morning. Yes, I am interim city manager. We're carrying on with the theme of interim city managers here. It is kind of interesting to see change of leadership around the county, and curious to see how that will impact the area, the county, the cities over the next couple years, and what that'll bring to the community as a whole. Yeah, next slide, please. Just want to highlight our city council. The names look pretty much unchanged. We do have one newly elected council member, Brad Francis, from the November election. So congratulations to Brad. Also want to highlight our meetings, our first and third Mondays here at the Susan Anderson Municipal Building, 601 Avenue A, for those who would like to attend. And also, I guess, yeah, it's important to note and acknowledge our excellent staff here at the City of Springfield across all our departments. It takes every single person here to make everything run smoothly, to provide the operations and the services that our residents expect. So from our city clerk, our public works department, clearing the streets, snow plowing like we've been doing a lot of lately, our fire department, and the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department, who provide our law enforcement services. So really happy with the incredible staff, highly skilled people we have here, and wanna highlight them. So next slide, please. So looks like there's a slide missing here, so I'll just cover some of these. We did complete in 2024 construction of a salt storage building. We had some pictures here that looks like we're missing, but that's okay. So construction of the salt storage building, our old building was, there we go, thank you. You see the lower right corner is our old building, and up top is the new building, so that we increased capacity, the ability to be able to store other materials as well that our public works department uses on a regular basis. Our old building was pretty rough shape and was inefficient to even be able to get in and out and to be able to maneuver the salt. So happy to have that new building to provide more efficient operations for our public works guys. Also want to highlight, we were awarded a MERS Impact Award for employee education, something we've tried to stress and to be able to really work on making sure we're educating our employees. So that was covering, we partner with MERS to provide education for financial wellness for our employees, providing compensation statements to our employees, and also partnered with MERS to be able to run figures for individually of retirement income replacement projections, and just to be able to provide a overall picture of what we're providing to our employees and help them better understand that picture. And then implementation of early voting. This certainly isn't unique for Springfield. This was statewide, but it gave us an opportunity to kind of evaluate how, the processes we're using and how we run our elections. So we did look at, previously we had 2 precincts, and we consolidated from 2 to 1 precinct to be able to just have one location Sometimes it created confusion previously of having 2 different precincts, and also provide a better way for us to have a better location for voters to come in. So we also reviewed our building, the City Hall building, for where the election takes place and voters come in. So we expanded our council chambers room, which is where we hold our voting, and was able to make that a little bit larger to accommodate more voters. Also is able to provide us with a larger meeting space if we need to hold larger meetings here at City Hall. So some extra benefits there for just the overall evaluation of that. And also being able to partner with some of our local communities, with Bedford, Penfield, and the city of Battle Creek, to be able to provide the early vote center that was held downtown Battle Creek at the Cool Community Center. So next slide, please. Also want to highlight our pension funding. This is something we've really taken strides to try to improve our funded level of our pensions. This is it's still there in the background of all municipalities across the state and nation. And so we've really worked hard at providing voluntary contributions towards our pension. And so over the last 4 years, we've increased our funded level from 60 to 72% in our pensions. And so we're proud of the progress we've made, and definitely something on our radar. We continue to look at how we can be able to pull money and use excess from or surpluses from prior years to be able to fund that better. Also, we looked at our TIFA plan, our Tax Increment Finance Authority plan. We hadn't had a major update to our TIFA plan for over 20 years. So we kind of looked at it, and more a process of looking at what projects do we want to tackle with our TIFA. And so we were able to run an update on that, and then also want to highlight our community events. You'll see some of our pictures there on the side from our car show, our Easter egg hunt. These are events we do each year. So the Easter egg hunt, of course, around Easter, Springfield car show. This is one that we do the weekend of Memorial Day every year. Sorry, Labor Day every year. And then the trunk or treat that obviously right around Halloween. So we'll put that info out as those come up this year. The Easter egg hunt is coming up soon. We'll have more information as those dates are set. We have more information. Next slide, please. So here is a long list of items, along with a bunch of numbers added to it. As finance director, of course, you'll expect that I would throw these out. Just want to point out how much in grant funding we have been able to secure here for City of Springfield, and how that's helped us really be able to provide some big improvements and some projects that are upcoming here. I'll highlight a few, and then as we look forward to 2025, I'll cover some more a little bit further on in more detail on some of these projects. So the Michigan Neighborhood Enhancement Program, we were able to provide some improvements to some homes throughout Springfield with that money. We're also the Category F MDOT grant. we will be looking at repaving along Avenue A between Helmer and Dickman here shortly, this upcoming spring, summer time. And the Firekeepers local revenue sharing. We are looking at doing some improvements to Begg Park, the walking bridges we have there. And so also want to highlight the total here of $5.4 million in grants we've secured, which is significant for Springfield. Our general fund budget is right around $3 million annually. So that kind of puts into perspective how much of an impact this can make for Springfield. Next slide, please. What's coming in 2025? Of course, as interim city manager, we are looking and city council is reviewing candidates right now for a permanent appointment to the city manager position. And so we look forward in the next couple months to be able to look to put someone here in this position permanently. We have, and this was one of the larger grant awards that we received, was the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund project. This is an $8 million investment in Springfield's water infrastructure, which includes mainly a lot of water main replacement of aging infrastructure. We are looking at construction starting next month. And actually this week, we've had quite a few semis rolling through our parking lot, delivering some of the materials for that project. So we are getting ready to undertake that. That's been a project that's been in the works and kind of the planning phase for a year or two now. So we're excited to get that underway next month. Springfield Schools Memorial Parks upgrades. This is park also formerly known as Upton Park. We're looking to do improvements to accessibility for the playground structures, parking, improve the pavilion, the appearance around the park, and also looking at doing some crosswalk upgrades between the north and south side of Upton to be able to provide better accessibility for non-motorized walking, biking. Also looking at adding a bus stop there at that location as well, just to be able to get more accessibility to that park. And being able to leverage $570,000 in DNR and MDOT grants is really making this project possible for us. Next up, we're also looking at utilizing our chill grant funds. So this is a MISHDA project or grant project that provide about $200,000 that we'd be able to just do more home improvements for Springfield residents, to do repairs, safety repairs, and just general improvements to housing. So we're excited about that, to be able to help out our residents with projects they may not be able to otherwise complete on their own. Next slide, please. And we have even more coming. We are currently working through, as plenty of the other communities are, we are working through our master plan update. Planning Commission has been working through this for a while. The transition with between city managers here has maybe delayed it slightly, but we are continuing to make progress. Planning Commission should be approving that here in the next couple months, and we'll be pushing that out to everyone to be able to comment, review the plan. And then also in conjunction with that, we are working through a 20th Street corridor plan and looking at ways that we can enhance that corridor and see what we can do to kind of improve the look. How can we look at zoning and just improve that area as a whole? Also looking sidewalk improvements. 2023, we did a sidewalk assessment, and this is just something we've continued to work through. As of now, we're looking just to kind of maintain our existing sidewalk infrastructure. So we're continuing to work and make some improvements. We have plans to do some repairs and replacement around Upton Avenue, which also would coincide with the park improvements there on Upton Avenue. Continuing to work towards fully funded pensions, just finding ways to fund that and continue to fund our pensions. Again, we've taken great strides to be able to fund that, and we want to continue to do that. And lastly, we are looking to recruit for our boards. Obviously, this is something that many communities are struggling with, finding members to volunteer for boards. But we've had some success already this year. We've added a few new members to our boards, and so we're really excited about that. And we'll continue to push that out and get more involvement in our boards. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Last but not least is Kelly Scott of Calhoun County.
Thank you, Amber. Also, thank you to the City of Battle Creek Communications team for making this presentation as easy as possible for us and for the community to hear what we have to say today. I also want to thank our city managers for agreeing to join with the county and do a combined state of the local community address. It is really critical that we all continue this communication, the collaboration, and accountability, so that we're not duplicating services. We're, maximizing our efforts to build a better community. And at the county level, we try really hard to balance and support and facilitate all of the efforts that you heard within the cities, and then also throughout the 19 townships in our villages in the county. So we really look at, when we consider the delivery of services, we look at the balance of different needs and priorities based on geography, based on whether you live in a rural area or urban area, and all kinds of other sort of competing priorities as we deliver the mandated services at the county level. We also support economic development. We support the growth in the community in a responsible way through mainly focusing on some of the countywide efforts like public safety, public health, providing countywide coordination of parks and recreation opportunities, and through our support in continued maintenance and improvement of infrastructure such as roads and bridges. So next slide. I would, just as an overview, I would consider this year at the county operation level to be one of continuation, completion, and steady operations. And when we talk about leadership, I'll explain how we're really well positioned to do that, as well as from a financial standpoint. Sometimes it's nice to not have a long list of new initiatives. Sometimes it's nice to be able to say, we're going to complete some things. We're going to attempt to provide steady services to our residents. At the same time, there is a lot of change going on at the state and the federal levels when it comes to policy and funding and regulation. So we're going to navigate all of that together. And so we can go to the next slide. Happy to report that we have a really great balance of new perspectives on the county commission, along with continued consistent county leadership at the administrative level and also with our countywide elected officials. So our county board has 7 members. It's roughly based on population. They are all elected at the same time. This year is the first the state passed a law saying that county commissioners have a 4-year term as opposed to the previous 2-year terms. And each of the 7 commissioners represents different segment of the population. So we do not have at-large commissioners. So every resident of the county has their own commissioner to help represent them. So that's nice. 5 out of the 7 commissioners are new. The returning commissioners are Derek King and Monique French. And then Al Morehart served a partial term this last time. And then all of the rest of them, Matt Saxton, Dominic Wu, Dan Strobridge, and Gary Tompkins. Gary is a returning commissioner, but they are all newly elected for this 4-year term. The board elected Derek King for board chair for the next 2 years. And then Matt Saxton is the board vice chair, which is limited to a 1-year term. And for our countywide elected officials, as I mentioned, we have a continuation of that leadership with Sheriff Steve Hinckley returning, Treasurer Brian Wensauer, our Clerk Register of Deeds, Kim Hinckley, Prosecutor Dave Gilbert. All of them are returning, and we have one change at that level, which is a Water Resources Commissioner. Our former County Commissioner, Tommy Miller, won that election. So it's nice to have that consistency going forward in leadership. And we have rearranged a little bit from the county administration standpoint. Most of them were internal promotions. So we have a really strong administrative team. We operate on what I call our administrative executive team, which is the photo there with our human resources, our legal counsel, our assistant county administrators, Amber as our communications director. And so I'm excited to really have this strong bench as we move forward. The courts also changed their leadership model a little bit going into this year. We formerly had Judge Mike Jackinet was the one chief judge over all of the different courts, district court, probate court, and circuit court. They have decided to separate that individual leadership over each court to have Judge Lincoln, Judge Bomia, and Judge Jackinet form the judicial council together, but they are each their own chief judge for the different courts. They also combined the administrative function. So Chris Getting is now the court administrator over all the courts. So it seems to make sense that we have kind of at the administrative level, things combined, and then each of the chief judges can focus more on the business decisions for their individual court. So I always say leadership matters, which is why I wanted to run through that. So we are positioned very well, like I said, to continue to complete and to provide steady operations consistency for our residents. Next slide. I always give a state of the county's finances, and the reason that matters is that it allows us to be transparent about what we're doing with everybody's property taxes. It shows that the county is positioned well to support our municipal partners in the development that they need to do. It keeps the cost of any financing as low as possible. And it just, I think, continues to demonstrate our commitment to the public to have strong finances, to not have excessive debt, and to continue to do the best we can with the money that we're entrusted to be stewards of. So the county has the second to the highest credit rating from the bond rating agencies. So that's an independent opinion of how strong our financial outlook is. We engage Standard & Poor's to do a review of everything from the county's economy overall to the county government's management policies when it comes to predicting and managing our finances and having reserves that allow us to operate on a stable outlook. So the highest credit rating is a AAA, reserved generally for just a couple of the largest counties in Michigan. Ours is a AA. I was happy to present to the Board of Commissioners for the 16th straight year a balanced general fund budget. We do not have deficit spending that you hear about at the national level. And it's not just the work of me putting numbers together and our finance staff. It's really, we have with our elected officials and our courts and our department heads, we have a very involved budget process. It lasts about 6 months, but they have become very good at respecting that we have limited revenues and being willing to do more with less. A lot of the departments have reduced staffing over the years. Some of that is due to implementing technology to continue to operate in an efficient way. And the county overall has recovered from a financial standpoint pretty well from the pandemic, where we had some reduced local revenues. And the biggest indicator of that is that our countywide, the residential property values increased by 14% last year, which is amazing. Now, individual property taxes don't increase by that because they're limited by law to an inflationary level. But from an overall economic standpoint, that is very good news for us. So we are positioned well financially. The county has not increased our operating millage in, I don't think, ever. In fact, it's been reduced over the years significantly by state law that balances growth in property values with wanting to limit the increases to taxpayers. So we have always a continued focus on maintaining fiscal responsibility and making sure that we're not in a position to have to all of a sudden ask for new taxes. Next. As I mentioned, the three key, I think, jobs that the county government has are to address the diverse needs across the county, to facilitate collaboration among, not just among county officials, but with the city managers. The county facilitates meetings quarterly with the city managers and mayors of all 4 cities, along with our village manager, and then the county board chair and I. So we also have an economic development corporation at the county level where we bring together all of the economic development officials from across the county. We do a lot of times when the cities are directly implementing all of these projects, the best that we can do is facilitate communication and collaboration across the community. We also support a lot of initiatives that we don't provide specifically. Couple of examples, the county is fortunate to have about $6 million a year from the Firekeepers Casinos net profits coming to the local revenue sharing board. I'm honored to have been chosen since the casino opened through a contract with the county to facilitate the delivery and the allocation of that funding to local governments. The Native American Heritage Fund is a statewide initiative that also takes some of the profits from Firekeepers Casino and gives that to local governments across the state, and we facilitate that initiative. Next. So speaking of property taxes, we do have several special millages that the voters approved in Calhoun County. Overall, if you look at their tax bill, as a resident of Calhoun County, the county's total property taxes make up a little over 25% of a typical tax bill. So we're a fairly small portion. I was highlighting here just some of the extra voted millages and what happens with those dollars. So the senior millage that has been in place for many years provides about $3.6 million in funding for a lot of free services across the county to about 7,000 residents. So it's about 20% of the county's older adult population are accessing services from that millage. We also have a veterans millage, which is much smaller. That is a 0.1 mil in it, but it does provide about $500,000 per year to fund our office, our county Veterans Affairs office. They also, their main job is to facilitate claims that brings hundreds of thousands of dollars to local veterans in the benefits that they deserve. They also facilitate an emergency financial assistance fund out of our office that helps many county residents resolve issues such as past due utility bills and minor repairs. The Parks and Recreation millage was just renewed last year in 2024. It's 0.2 mils. Broad 63% support for that. It generates about $1 million per year. And that's split half and half between what the county keeps to operate, preserve, and maintain our parks, and then the rest that is allocated to cities, townships, and villages. Excuse me. Sorry, one moment. All right, we will try this. I'm not sure. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to try, and if not, Amber's going to take over. I'm recovering from a throat sickness. Okay, so public safety enhancements, again, are a big focus, and some of the things that are being worked on include just increases to law enforcement, and I'm not going to be able to do this, Amber.
Let me just pull up my notes real quick.
I apologize. It's hard.
All right. In public safety, we have made improvements to ensure our residents and visitors find Calhoun County as a safe community. The 911 millage passed in 2022 is funding the construction of new radio towers and the installation of upgraded systems for law enforcement, EMS, and fire departments. Sheriff Hinckley is overseeing a grant fund project to ensure adequate camera coverage in school districts. We've also made great strides to increase the Sheriff's Department presence in schools with student resource officers. Let's see here. The prosecuting attorney's office is getting new management systems. And the youth center renovations are underway. The first phase is nearing completion. That'll be a beautiful new building that increases some space and allows for added safety for the residents and staff alike there. Supporting health, well-being, and the quality of life. We're improving health indicators. We've done some studies with the public health department. So we're realizing mental health is a huge focus for the county. We are helping to provide additional providers and funds with Summit Point. We're addressing some of the overdose opioid with allocations in national funding. Kelly oversees a lot of that. And the Public Health Department is working through some accreditations and enhancements for the countywide programming there. Infrastructure and sustainability. The recycling and solid waste is making great strides. We saw a lot of increase in recycling volume and use of our facilities this past year. They did receive a $500,000 grant from Eagle to help develop plans for a new facility. So those plans are starting to get underway. There were some legislative changes. So the Materials Management Committee is a new initiative. We're making appointments to that, and they will start meeting very shortly. And then the county works with township officials to maintain local road improvement plans to consider safety, traffic patterns, different priorities for road improvements. Since 2021, the road department has made substantial investments in local and primary road projects across the state or across the county, and those are matched by townships year over year in funding. We've done countless miles of primary road improvements using the Pacer rating system, and we have a few projects planned for 2025 with federal aid funding, 18 miles of primary road improvements and a bridge replacement included in that. There will be $5.3 million in local road projects, $3 million township match dollars with nearly 45 miles throughout the 19 townships. The road department is in the process of evaluating requests submitted from other townships and will finalize those recommendations this spring. Newton Township Phase 1 this summer, road improvement grants for the Blue Oval Battery Park area. That's 11 Mile Road, Verona Road, and 15 Mile Road. The Duck Lake project is going to be completed this summer, the third final phase. That's C Drive North and H Drive North over in Sheridan Township. And that's a combination of federal, state, and local funding. There are some bridge replacements on the docket. L Drive South and 25.5 Mile Road bridges. There was a $6 million grant awarded through the state. And then S Drive South near Pine Creek Reservation, that's already been shut down and construction is beginning. The road department works closely with NHVP to bring this project to fruition, and it was also some added funds from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We have some projects coming up to maintain the county facilities this year. As I mentioned earlier, the completion of the youth center, the Toller building, there's going to be some refiguring. There's already been some of these projects have started and are underway. We've moved the Veterans Affairs office to make more room for the Public Defender's office. Some reimagining to the conference space to make them a little more tech savvy. Improvements to elevators and generators and such like that. Justice Center will be undergoing some improvements as well with the complete redo of the jail locks. And an expansion of our services throughout the county. We're working through the broadband task force with some eligible locations. Internet service providers have expressed interest and are applying for funds to enable them to expand the broadband service to the whole county. They're applying for that funding, federal funding, through mid-April, and construction will hopefully begin to take place later this year throughout 2026. We're hopeful that this will cover all unserved locations throughout Calhoun County. We just launched a new website design that brings our new website into a more ADA accessible, and we're going to add a chatbot feature that will help with translation and accessibility as well. So look for that coming very soon. The Clerks and Register of Deeds have improved their accessibility to other documents throughout their office, transitioning to a digital friendly search and review system. We're supporting housing opportunities and neighborhood stabilization through the Treasurer's Office and the Land Bank. The Treasurer's Office has some initiatives to help with blight removal and hardship foreclosure assistance, as well as the Land Bank Authority is working to clear up some of the brownfield initiatives. They've received generous grant funding from various agencies to work on some new housing projects in Albion and Battle Creek in Washington Heights. The Land Bank also celebrated this past year 20 years of impact. They had a great celebration last fall. A lot of our community leaders were able to attend that and support us with that. We're also components with the supporting responsible development, planning and zoning review recommendations, directly improving roads and bridges, designing permit policies and procedure to make it easy as possible to protect resources, health, and safety in our area. The planning and zoning and economic development of the county, we're supporting solar zoning ordinance development. There was an initiative to clean up the soil around the Justice Center with some EPA funds and additional funds from various community partners. And newly developed countywide relocation guide. There's a resource for anyone looking to move into the county, or maybe for those that have been here a while and aren't fully aware of all the resources that Calhoun County has to offer. We've also secured $100,000 in grant funds for a new county master plan. So the Planning Commission is getting to work on that. And in supporting employees, one of our great assets, we are focusing on recruiting and retention efforts, working on continuing to be an attractive employer throughout the county. We've reorganized and reclassified some wages, focused on bringing in new talent and improving benefits to retain some of our amazing employees. Some new policies that we've passed this past year are paid medical, parental, and caregiver leave acts. There's a new wellness program that's being implemented right now. We've done wage studies and again, focused on just generational training, human resources training. We're focusing on mental health and being certified in mental health allies. Throughout the county, we've focused on succession planning and keeping things moving forward and improving efficiencies throughout. I probably left out a lot there, Kelly, so if you have anything to add.
No, you did an amazing job, probably better than I would have. Thank you so much. I owe you one. This is what you never want to happen when you're doing public speaking, but thank you.
I believe we had some questions submitted, so I'm going to pull those up real quick. So we had some residents throughout the county submit questions in advance. I'm going to read those aloud and allow our leaders here to respond to those. I'm just going to zoom in because I can't read them very well. All right. The first question is, will Battle Creek have a senior center like Marshall?
Will Battle Creek have a senior center like Marshall? I got that question correct, right?
Yes.
And I'll refer to Derek as well. I'm pretty sure Marshall, I think it's Heritage Commons, must be the facility that they're referring to. And I believe that they have a kind of a broad scope of enrichment in programs for older adults. I see Derek shaking his head. Yeah, so I got that right. Good, thank you. I'm not aware of a similar development that's in the works in Battle Creek that would replicate or duplicate that specific model. But I would say there are lots of organizations in the community who provide enrichment that can be taken advantage of by seniors. I mean, a good example would be KCC's lifelong learning programs, great resource for that kind of thing. And of course, Marshall is our nearby neighbor. So hopefully folks in the region are taking advantage of that great facility they have over there. So, and we're certainly aware of, the quality of life implications of having this kind of programming available for seniors. I think there's even some of that still going on at the Cool Center, although it's more of a community membership driven facility these days. But I'd encourage folks to look for the various providers who are providing this kind of enrichment programming in Battle Creek.
I can attempt to mention the County Senior Services Office is working with the Cool Center conceptually to have a senior center there. So they're in the planning and feasibility stage of that.
Great. Thank you, Kelly.
Do any of you support a third-party independent forensic audit of your municipality to be more financially transparent with the citizens, and also to see where money may be wasted and how we can better direct and spend our money? Why or why not?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in there. I suspect my counterparts have some thoughts on this as well. You know, obviously in the city of Battle Creek, we do have an independent third-party auditor who comes in every year and audits our financial statements. That's not typically a forensic audit, as forensic audits tend to only occur if there is a happening or a suspected fraud or abuse. But we do think it's a very good way to ensure that the city is using its dollars in a financially responsible way. And, you know, in the city of Battle Creek, we put those audited financial statements, as I'm sure my counterpoints do, on their website, you know, on our websites every year. I mean, at the city of Battle Creek, for example, you can go to our website and see our weekly check register. And so I think we try to be very transparent with our financials and have some good policies and practices in place to ensure that that happens.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add too, and it's like all the other communities on here, the budget process is a very public process. And it's not something that just occurs over one night. So there's lots of opportunities for the citizens to be involved in that process, public hearings, multiple meetings, discussions based on priorities, level of service. So if residents out there have questions or concerns about the budget process, I encourage them to engage with their municipality or their county and have those discussions. Again, we also, every city council meeting, we have a list of our bills. In fact, we had a resident last meeting had a question about one of those. The meeting, we spent some time and we talked about what that was. And what it was is collecting the ad valorem taxes for the different jurisdictions and passing them through, right? Simple explanation, but I can see when they look at the bill list, that may not make sense. So again, if folks have those level of questions, I encourage them to reach out to your communities and the folks that you see on the screen. We're more than happy to provide those answers that you're looking for. That's what we do. We're here for you.
Yeah, I'll chime in too as far as Springfield. On our website, we have a page for transparency. It includes a lot of financial documents, including, you know, you get Ted and Derek, you guys mentioned our audited financials annually. We have a budget booklet. We have details on some of our personnel costs as well. And yeah, also our checks that we issue are part of our city council packets, agendas for every meeting. Those are approved and listed individually in our council packets and agendas. So I would chime in and say that same, echo that same comments about, we try our best to be as transparent as possible. And that information is available through our website for anyone that's interested, or yes, reach out and ask questions if you have specific questions on anything.
The next question comes from a community health worker who works with some of the at-risk population in Calhoun County to connect them with resources in our community, food, transportation, and housing, for example. She said Calhoun County seems blessed with food pantries and other food assistance programs. However, we have a shortage of affordable housing and transportation resources. Are there any solutions to these issues in the works?
Again, I'm happy to jump in. I think probably all of us during our presentations touched on the need for housing in our communities. And again, I mentioned earlier at various price points and all types of typologies and in every corner of the community. I think there are some proactive steps being taken in Battle Creek to address the housing issue. I mentioned our housing needs assessment. And the recommendations within that assessment, one of them includes establishing a housing trust fund, which we are in the process of doing now. We've got some seed money from the Kellogg Foundation to help enhance our ability to support, for example, emerging developers who want to get into this space. And there are some good projects going on in Battle Creek, for example, in Washington Heights, where one of the local churches has taken on a housing development. So, we're inviting stakeholders to the party. We'd like to be able to do a little better with our LIHTC applications to the state, because that's another great source of funding to create affordable housing in our community, but we're being as proactive as possible. We've got a plan. We're following the recommendations of that plan, and hopefully that will yield some fruit on the housing tree in the upcoming years. The good news is the one LIHTC project that we did land, the Hollander project at the old Kmart site, is getting ready to launch in 2025. So hopefully that'll kick off some momentum to help us address our housing issues.
What impacts will the federal budget cuts have on each of the major cities in Calhoun County? If there are federal funding reductions, how will those funds be replaced? And how many federal employees are in Battle Creek, and are any targets of having their jobs eliminated?
Derek, you look like you were going to jump in there.
Well, again, I know there was a specific question related to Battle Creek, but obviously when that chatter started at the federal level, we did our quick analysis to see what potential impacts would be for us. And we do have 3 of our firefighters currently funded by what's known as a SAFER grant, which is a direct allocation from the federal government. We don't think that there will be any impacts to that, but again, no one likes uncertainty, right? And obviously there's been some level of uncertainty going around. Ultimately, what we would have to do is make that evaluation on how we could backfill that with local property tax dollars. And we think we're in a good place and we'll be able to do that if that funding were to dry up immediately. But no one really likes that thought that the rug could be pulled out from underneath you. It doesn't make for good governance when you are having to react herky-jerky like that. And the other area is our public transit, which, public transit receives a lot of money from the state and federal governments. And Marshall currently operates the dial-a-ride system. However, that'll be transitioning to the county transit authority. But that was another area where we have some concerns. But again, at this point, we don't think that there's going to be any impact to those 2 areas. So that's for Marshall.
Yeah, and I would certainly agree that there is uncertainty around all of this. I mean, obviously, we have operations that receive a significant amount of federal funding, you know, whether it's the airport and the FAA, or Derek mentioned transportation and the FTA, the DOJ and law enforcement, HUD certainly for our community development needs. And so, I mean, we're concerned. Obviously, you know, our department heads are checking with their various professional associations, trying to get as much information as they can about what's going to happen. We're talking to elected officials, et cetera, to try to get a feel for this. But, you know, as Derek mentioned, there is a certain amount of uncertainty here. If we're seeing reductions, we're going to have to scramble, and it may mean some reductions in programming as well. Because obviously we've got to live within a budget. We're not hearing doom and gloom when we put feelers out there. But things are changing every day, and you know, it's certainly on our radar. We're trying to stay on top of it and try to react accordingly.
I think you're muted, Amber.
So we had several questions about TAC, asking for an update and plans to increase public transportation in the county.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly encourage folks, if they have questions about the TAC, to reach out to the TAC. You can visit the Ride Calhoun website. They do have a contact form there. I know people have been submitting questions, and the TAC has been responding. You know, Derek mentioned they've got assets that will be transferred to the TAC over time. We obviously in the city of Battle Creek have significant assets that will be transferred to the TAC over time. You know, we have seen on their website just a simple breakdown of their proposed service level scenario, and it's exciting. It adds a significant amount of daytime on-demand service, nighttime on-demand service, and even weekend services, including Sunday. So I understand people are anxious to see the TAC come to fruition. We're working closely with them and expect to be over the next several months to make that transition. Yes, they did obviously have a millage approved, which means that there will be stable funding for transportation going forward, which is great, rather than relying on, you know, a city like Battle Creek or a city like Marshall to try to produce the funding to stabilize and provide services countywide. So I think we're absolutely headed in the right direction. I think once we can get the TAC operational, and that does take a little bit of time to get all of the pieces in place, I think there'll be a robust public transportation infrastructure serving all four of the communities and the county that are here as part of this conversation today. So I say, if you can be patient, it's coming, and I think it's going to be good for all of those who rely on public transportation.
And one last TAC question. Will a county commissioner be appointed to the TAC board?
I am not sure. There's one vacancy, I believe, right now. The way the articles of incorporation are written, it specifies getting recommendations from each of the cities that are participating, and then the county so far has appointed non-commissioners, members of the public at large, I guess, to the TAC.
And we have one last question, and any other questions we don't get to, or if any other community members have additional questions, the survey will be open through the end of the month, and we can respond to those outside of this broadcast. So feel free, residents, to submit your questions.
Amber?
Yes.
I need to correct that statement. I just remembered. So we originally thought that a county commissioner could be appointed to the TAC, and a legal review of that said that that would be a conflicting office holder position according to state law. And so our county commissioners are ineligible to be on the TAC due to that. Because the county board appoints the members to the TAC, they could not both appoint and hold the position of a TAC board member. Thank you for letting me clarify that.
Thank you. So one last question. This is a pretty great one to end on. What is the best way for neighbors throughout Calhoun County to support local government at the county or municipality level and help make a positive impact in 2025?
Yeah, I would agree. That's a great question, right? And I think some of my counterparts on the call today, actually, I think Ethan, as a matter of fact, mentioned a couple of ways that you can serve, right? Ethan mentioned boards and committees, where I'm assuming that Marshall and Albion have similar challenges with just filling positions on boards and committees. We certainly do. That's a great way you can participate. Derek talked a little bit, and so did others on the call, about, participating. I did as well, participating in our planning processes. Sharing your information and feedback as we work on things like master plans and consolidated plans and housing needs assessments and various things like that. We value community feedback, and it's important. So that's a great way that you can get involved. And, I may not directly benefit the city, get involved as a member of, or as a volunteer to the various organizations that support so much of what's good that happens in our communities. So I'd like to meet that person. We're going to start recruiting them right away.
All right. As a reminder, the survey link will be available to submit questions through February 28th. So if anybody else who watches this at a later date, they can submit questions and we'll respond to them offline. Thank you everyone again for joining us today. We hope you found the updates from the community leaders insightful and informative as we look back on 2024 and ahead to an exciting 2025. I'll end by encouraging everyone to stay involved and continue to work together for the betterment of our community. Have a great day, and we look forward to continuing to build a brighter future together. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.